before we get into the video, I just want to say a huge thank you for the feedback you've given in regards to the channel. So basically, a couple of videos back, you'll see that we're doing a West Ham shirt giveaway. Still open, by the way, this is. So if you haven't done it yet, just go and quickly check it out. It's literally a couple of minutes long. All you need to do is just basically leave a comment on that video, and that's it. You've entered it, and you need to be a subscriber. So if you're not a subscriber, click on that as well, and you can win a West Ham top. And that's it. We're doing it, by the way, every month for the whole season. But basically, what we're doing this month was asking for feedback. Now, and I did say, like, I was happy, open for criticism. So let us know whatever you feel that we could do more of or less of, etc. I've got to say, the comments have been really, really good. I'm still going through them at the moment. But yeah, really, really appreciate it. Some excellent ideas and just some really nice words as well. So it really has meant a lot. So yeah, just thanks a lot. Really does mean the world to us. People don't realise things like that, like decent comments. It's nice to have a community, but the likes as well for videos and things like that. It does make you feel good, and it's good that we're being able to provide something that the fans like. So yeah, just wanted to say that before get into this video. So let's talk about financial fair play. It hasn't happened just yet, but so I imagine by the time you may watch this now, this has already come out. Well, it actually would have done, but I don't know the details of this Everton and Nottingham Forest situation, because basically they're about to be charged with breaches of financial fair play. I mean, Everton again, which is ridiculous considering how. I mean, people say, you feel sorry for it. I do, for Everton fans. But, I mean, you've got to look at these owners. I mean, what have they done to that club? They've just absolutely rinsed them, haven't they, to bits. The decision-making at that club has been absolutely diabolical. Considering the fact they're now facing further issues and possibly points deductions, it's remarkable, really. And the state of their finances is quite worrying. So, yeah. But that's what I want to talk about, actually, in this video, because there seems to be a real air of confusion in terms of West Ham, and I still think there is in terms of where we stand in terms of financial fair play. See, the club would have you believe, right, that we are in a very risky position. We've got to be very, very careful. The top man has come out and said at West Ham to us, the press or whatever, to the insiders, etc. And West Ham Way. In terms of ex-WHU employee, have revealed this, that basically we don't want to do an Everton. We're very concerned about it. Look, I've got loads of respect for that. Me personally, I'm quite risk averse. I don't want to take too much. I'm not a big gambler. I'm not one of those people that will just lay a lot on the line thinking it'll be all right. So I do understand that stance. So it does make me feel sometimes a bit of comfort, actually, I get from that when we say, actually, we're not going to take too much risk. We want to be a bit careful. Having said that, though, one thing that's really annoyed me with it recently, and that's the reason for this video, actually, is because we've been linked with Jack Clarke of Sunderland. And I highly admire him, actually. I think he's done really well from this season. He's been one of their best players. Sunderland are doing well this season, really, aren't they? They're a team that are chasing a playoff spot in the Championship. Obviously, they want to get back to the Premier League. And my word, they're a club that have been through it, haven't they, the last few years? My word, and I know a few Sunderland fans, so they've been in a lot of pain in terms of what they've had to witness. So, to see them back sort of fighting at the sort of higher end of the Championship is really good to see, actually. But Jack Clarke's been a key reason for that. Now, when you consider West Ham's position at the moment in terms of our left wing, we want to improve upon that. We're looking to sell Said Benrahma, which is looking likely. It's looking like if there's a departure, he's probably likely to be the next one alongside possibly Danny Ings. So West Ham are looking at Jack Clarke as an option. Well, it's a rumour that we are very keen on him. I'm not saying it definitely won't happen, by the way. But what we're also hearing as well is that West Ham are unlikely to do anything because £20 million that it would probably require, possibly a little bit more, to get him away from Sunderland. We simply don't have the money. We're not in a position to do so because of financial fair play. It's almost like we're using the financial fair play situation as an excuse, in my opinion. That's what I'm starting to feel like. And there's a reason I say that. And the reason I say that is because of Kieron Maguire. Now, Kieron Maguire is a football finance expert. He has been on the West Ham Way Patreon not too long ago to talk about West Ham finances. I listened to it at the time and I thought that was very interesting. Yeah, not too bad. Because he talks about the wider spectrum as well. He doesn't just talk about West Ham. He talks about what's going on at Chelsea, Man City and all these sort of things. Very, very interesting. And how that clubs are sort of getting around these problems. And it's very interesting. But obviously, the main factor while we're here to talk about West Ham, aren't we? That's what this channel's all about. So the question is, where are West Ham sitting in all of this then? Now, if you remember, I've talked about it enough on here, but it's public obviously knowledge anyway. West Ham were put on the UEFA watch list a couple of years ago. I believe we're off that now. Maguire himself sort of talked about it, and he said, "Yeah, I don't think that's now." I'm not sure exactly where we stand on it, but he said, "I believe that's now no longer the case." Okay, so we can sort of draw a line under that. Not worry about it too much. But there's two financial fair play systems that we need to be mindful of. You've got the UEFA and you've then got the Premier League. Premier League being the sort of key one for us, of course. Obviously, we are in the Europa League, so we do need to adhere to those rules. But the Premier League is obviously what we're very, very concerned of, because we do not want to be breaking any rules, because you're looking at what's happened at Everton, looking at what's going on at Man City, and when God knows what they're going to face. There's a lot of issues there. That's going to take a long time to get resolved, of course, because of the magnitude of it. But and as I've just talked about, you've got something going now, another situation with Everton that Nottingham Forest also in trouble. So look, I completely understand West Ham being careful. I really can. But listening to Kieron Maguire talk about West Ham, what's going on at the moment, I don't think there really is anything we need to be too concerned about. It doesn't seem that West Ham are really in that at any huge risk. There really isn't. So I jotted down some notes from the podcast. So I went back basically to listen to it, and I thought, I want to find out exactly where we are with this. Now, look, I'm really not an expert in any of this. Obviously, you can tell from me talking about it, I haven't really got a clue, really. I'm sort of going by what I'm reading and as much information I can gather, and then obviously then learning from what Kieron Maguire has had to say about it. So he was saying that clubs are allowed to make a loss of £105 million over a 3-year period. However, you can also, there are adjustments you can make to that. For instance, you can say certain things that can go, you can spend money on the academy, that doesn't come into play, the women's team, the community, stadium, things like that. They don't form part of that. Okay, so they allow you to then go and develop these things on the side. You can spend more money on that. It doesn't fall into that category. It's just, okay, fine. 60 million, though, is for UEFA, but there's also, there's a cap on wages and agency fees. Premier League might follow that suit, but basically, West Ham, as far as Kieron Maguire is concerned, are very, very low risk. West Ham are actually in very good shape, his words were, when it comes to financial fair play. We've still got COVID allowances that we haven't drawn upon, which we can, and stadium. And this is before even we sold Declan Rice for £105 million. So, and bearing in mind, right, I mean, we always kind of get sucked into this belief of, let's just say, Jack Clark, okay, 20 million quid. You think, oh, right, it's 20 million quid, then West Ham have got to fork out 20 million pounds, but that's not the case, is it? You don't fork out 20 million quid, you spread it over the course of the contract. So you've got Jack Clark, say, for 20 million quid. You haven't got to fork out 20 million quid there and then, bang, and pay it and release the money and then declare it. What you can do is just spread it over the 5-year contract that you offer the player, which would be £4 million a year over 5 years. So I'm struggling with West Ham at the moment. So I don't know why we're behaving in the way that we are right up against it, when quite clearly we're not. And it's annoyed me, that has, because you sort of think, I'm not necessarily saying, let's go raid Sunderland now. As I say, it's probably Sunderland fans watching this thinking, what the hell, we don't want to see that happen. And I don't blame you. But my point is, why are West Ham not capitalising on the situation that we find ourselves in at the moment? Whereas, let's be honest, we can finish there's a chance in the top 5 this season. Don't get me wrong, very, very hard to do so. I'm not saying we will, but there's a chance. And, if West Ham can get a couple of players over the line this January to really push on, then there's no reason why. Well, we certainly can't finish in the top 6. Absolutely no reason why at all. So it's frustrating that we seem to have, though, an owner or that's saying otherwise, that seems to be going down the route of, well, our hands are tied. We can't spend any money. We're financial fair play. Look at Everton. West Ham are nowhere near in a situation like Everton are in. Nowhere near. As I say, Kieron Maguire's words were, West Ham are in very good shape when it comes to financial fair play. So, I mean, I was looking here as well at our numbers. So you look at the stadium improvement, in terms of our move to the stadium. We used to make £27 million in ticket sales, and that's to 41. 50 will include Europe. Commercial was almost doubled now. Our commercial opportunities up to 50 million quid. The club's in decent nick. It really is. I mean, there's a couple of videos that are going to do the rounds at the moment. Hammers Chat did an excellent one regarding our stadium situation in the deal we're paying that. I mean, West Ham have got an incredible deal with that stadium. Not to say it's not going to come and bite us in the arse at some point, but you know, you can go and check it out on Hammers Chat and see what they're talking about in there in regards to what Gonzo had to say on the matter. Very interesting. But this isn't obviously, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the state of play today in terms of the transfer market. I don't want to have the wool pulled over our eyes here by the club. And I'm not, as I say, this isn't me saying to the club, right, go and spend £150 million this January and go and try and win the league. I appreciate that these things can come back and bite. I am watching other clubs and seeing what they've done where they've invested silly money and then it bites them. Chelsea, prime example of this. I mean, they are a club, far as I'm concerned, taking a huge gamble here with the way that they're conducting their business, putting these huge contracts in place for their players because if they don't work out, they're stuffed. So look, I don't want West Ham to be this gambling club that are just throwing everything we can just to try and do right. I do want us to play a sensible approach, but please don't. I don't want to keep being told that we're skin and we've got no money to spend and we're at so much risk with the financial fair play when we're clearly not. Jack Clarke, for me, is an option that we should be exploring. There are players down there. You've got Rowe of Norwich. Why are we not exploring these options? Why are we not having a bit of a gamble? Say, look, let's go for these players, especially if they're young. Because I always think, as I've just said, let's just say we buy Jack Clarke for £20 million, give him a 5-year deal. Look, I'm not saying that's what it will cost. I'm just using it as an example, right? And then we say, well, as I've said, and you're only committing then in terms of your books to £4 million a year for Jack Clarke, right? Well, let's just say we bring him in, and in 12 months' time, he hasn't worked out. He's not quite the level we expected. He hasn't quite worked out. He's still a young lad. You pretty much get a return on what you spent, or make a very small loss. It's a very low risk strategy for me. And you think of what's at stake. You know, West Ham could be finishing here, especially if top 5 this year can get Champions League, possibly, if things go a certain way in terms of English clubs performing well in Europe. So why aren't we taking that gamble? Why aren't West Ham showing some courage? Look at Tottenham, because Tottenham's spending money. Tottenham aren't holding back this January, are they? They're going out to invest. They can see the Champions League. They're seeing it and thinking, we can get there, we can get in the Champions League, and there's no reason why they won't. And yet we're the opposite. Now, I'm not saying West Ham aren't going to spend money, all right? I'm not saying for a fact that we're not. The reason I'm feeling a bit irked about this is because of the fact that we're already getting the noises coming out that we're not going to spend any money on Jack Clarke. We haven't got the money. And that's what drew me back to that video. I'm thinking, hang on a minute, what do you mean we haven't got the money? Bearing in mind, by the way, that as I've said, I want to emphasise the point here that when Kieron Maguire did his report on this, in terms of West Ham's state of play at the moment, in terms of financial fair play, and that we're in good shape, this is before even factoring in Declan Rice sale. 105 million quid. And I appreciate we've spent money since then, but West Ham are in good nick here. We're in good nick. There's no reason why West Ham can't afford to go and spend a little bit of money this January to push us on. And I'm not expecting West Ham to go and put out £100 million on the table. But for God's sake, we should have enough to spend £20 million on a player that could potentially get us into the realms of not only European football this season, but possibly even the Champions League.